Thank you, Helena. And welcome everybody to our webinar, OneStream and Authority Software Demonstration for ESEF. That's the European Single Electronic Format. We are very excited to be with you all today. Really appreciate your time, the opportunity to be with you all. I'm Francesco Di Natale. I'm a senior solutions consultant here at OneStream Software. I'm very excited to have Kay Angel from Function 6 and Michael Grieger from Authority Software here with me today. Do you guys want to say a quick hello and introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. So I'm Kai Engel. I'm one of the partners at Function 6. We've been OneStream partners now for about 2.5 years, I think, and have got through a number of projects with them. Okay.
Hi, and my name is Michael Grieger. I'm a managing director at Authority Software. We've been a technology partner of OneStream for 2.5 years now. And I've worked about 25 years helping finance teams automate their processes.
Thanks a lot, guys. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A section, and we will be coming back to your questions at the end of the session. So I'm going to quickly introduce OneStream before handing over to Kai and Michael. So the picture you see on the screen is something that we typically see a lot with our clients. Many organizations we work with really face big fragmentation challenges, both in terms of systems and processes. This level of fragmentation makes it very difficult to comply with moving regulatory requirements. So the ever-changing regulatory requirements really put a lot of strain on organizations that need to constantly adapt their systems, their data and processes to ensure full compliance. So OneStream brings to the market a fully unified platform. So this is a truly single platform, single application that enables multiple solutions, such as planning, consolidation, reporting, analytics. So our proprietary extensible dimensionality capability allows us to meet multiple reporting requirements, whether this is IFRS, Solvency II, Core Rep, you name it, and many other requirements within one single platform. And also this platform can evolve over time quite easily, right? So if you want to meet changing requirements, want to kind of future-proof yourself for future evolution of the requirements, but also the internal management reporting requirements without having to recreate new application, new things from scratch all the time, the unified platform is the way to go. And I was an implementation consultant myself for 15 years before moving into the vendor business. And I've done lots of regulatory reporting projects. The way we will normally implement those was by creating multiple models and chart of accounts to meet different reporting requirements. And this is something that might sound familiar to you guys. So maybe you end up with one chart account for IFRS, one chart account for FinRep, one chart account for Core Rep. You see, you have multiple structures, and you end up with many different buckets of data, and you need to move data around and ensure alignment between them all. This creates a lot of effort, especially on finance, in terms of maintaining all of these different structures, and it's also bringing potentially a lot of errors. In OneStream, this is totally managed. It's different, completely differently. We only create one chart of account, then leverage the extensibility I mentioned earlier to create multiple flavors of the single chart of account. The system will automatically take care of the alignment, all of these different flavors, so you don't need to do that manually. We also have our embedded machine learning capability that allows for high accuracy forecast, very granular level for thousands of targets. So now I'm going to hand over to Michael and Kai. We're going to talk about how we can leverage OneStream and Authority Report to meet the ESEF reporting requirement. So Michael, take it away.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm just going to take you through an agenda for the rest of today's presentation. So this is a collaboration between three companies, between OneStream, Function 6, and Authority Software. We've had an introduction on OneStream. We'll just take you through a little bit more about Function 6 and Authority Software. We'll then move on to an overview of Report Authority. Report Authority is an XBRL-enabled report writer, which can be used to create financial statements or convert them to XBRL for ESEF reporting purposes. We'll then move on to just a brief overview of ESEF reporting, what it is about, and we'll go through some of the challenges that companies who have to report on ESEF will face. We'll then move on to a demonstration, and then finally there'll be a little Q&A session. Okay, so moving on to Function 6, Kai, if you'd like to introduce Function 6.
Yeah, sure. So as mentioned earlier on, Function 6 has been a partner for about 2.5 years now with OneStream, but over the years we've had sort of experience across various other software tools. We take quite a holistic approach to our projects, from everything from starting off with solution planning and understanding all the parameters, constraints, etc., that the customer has, getting through to solution control and making sure we've got the technical teams and managing the quality that we've got for the project. Then within solution design and architecting and delivering the project as required, through to build and test, where we do a lot of SIP testing, for example, UAT, and making sure that really ultimately the project, the final solution is business ready and therefore can be handed over through to business as usual for the customer to carry on running through with the project.
And then onto Authority Software. We produce regulatory reporting software aimed at mandates that require specialized electronic formats, submission formats. For example, XBRL, iXBRL, and XML. Report Authority was initially created in the early 2010s, and this was in response to developments initially in the UK and Denmark, where the regulators required annual financial statements to be prepared in XBRL or iXBRL format. And it has since then grown to many other jurisdictions, such as Ireland, South Africa, and now more recently throughout the whole of Europe with ESEF reporting. Report Authority was our first product. We then moved on to, we expanded into banking and insurance sector, supervisory reporting, typically known as COREP and FINREP or Solvency II reporting, through our second application, DPM Authority. That was the subject of the webinar we did a couple of weeks ago. And then more recently, our newest tool, deals with XML reporting. This is where you need to report XML. Typical examples are country by country reporting, FATCA, CRS, and many, many more tax and finance areas. Now, moving on to Report Authority. So this is one of our three applications, what we're going to be demonstrating. It's going to be the software we're demonstrating today, which is one of our three products. So Report Authority is a word processing environment. And what you can do in creating a financial report is that you can link various reported facts to various external data sources, such as OneStream, Excel, and some others. It allows you to combine this numeric information with text commentary, and you can do this all using standard Microsoft Word type functionality. So for a user who's familiar with Microsoft Word, they should be able to jump in and feel right at home in creating reports how they want it to look. One of the key features of our software is our templating functionality. And what that allows you to do is, if you've got a large group producing very similar type reports, you can create a template which can be XBRL tagged, linked to various data sources, and you can use that template to drive the reporting of all of your subsidiary documents. We'll be discussing that quite a bit when we go through the demonstration. And of course, content can then be exported into XBRL or iXBRL format, which includes the new ESEF format. Okay, so coming on to ESEF. So what is ESEF? So this impacts all listed companies in Europe, particularly those accounting periods that end the 31st of December 2021 or later. Those accounts need to be prepared in ESEF format. So what is ESEF format? It is actually a zip file that has got a number of components inside. The first one is the annual financial statements that need to be prepared in XHTML format. So in the past, normally the process ended when the designers churn out the PDF document, but this isn't enough anymore. We now need to get those accounts converted into XHTML format. Furthermore, within that XHTML document, all the reported facts within the primary statements need to be individually XBRL tagged. And now, starting from next year, this impacts all accounts dated the 31st of December 2022 or later. You will now also need to block tag your notes to the accounts. It's very different to individual tagging, and that's something, again, we will show you within the demonstration. And then, finally, the ESEF document also contains the company's extended XBRL taxonomy. So every company will use the core ESEF taxonomy, but effectively you take that and you make it your own by creating your own presentation with a list of tags that you're using. It allows you to do some extensions where you can create your own tags where no suitable tag exists in the taxonomy. And you also have to create your calculation relationship between all the tags that you've used. It's not enough just to include, which tags you use. You have to say how they all mathematically add up. And your filing will be rejected if any of the numbers that you're reporting don't actually conform with that calculation hierarchy that you set up. Okay, so what are the main challenges of ESEF? First of all, companies have got a 4-month deadline for reporting. For many companies, what this means is they'll actually have less time than they used to in actually finalizing those accounts because you've got this additional ESEF reporting requirements at the end. Depending on jurisdiction, also, this XBRL tagging accuracy might also be subject to audit. So it's another more involvement of the auditors within the process. And probably more critically, very seldom is this entire end-to-end process performed solely by the same users using a single tool. So, for example, most companies tend to use third-party designers. This could either be a third party to the organization or possibly another team within the company. And they will typically use a different software such as Adobe InDesign to complete those documents. And now, even furthermore, sometimes an additional third party gets involved to do the actual XBRL conversion. And then finally, the conversion from PDF to XHTML is not always perfect. So ideally, there'd be some collaboration between the people who are doing the conversion to ESEF format along with the designers. Sometimes it requires, for real complex layouts, for them to be simplified in the underlying PDF document through flattening, etc. So there are a number of challenges in getting this ESEF completed. So let's look at a typical process, say a company using OneStream and how they get their information ready for ESEF format. So the first phase is going to be the document authoring phase. So this typically companies tend to use tools such as Word and Excel to create that first draft set of accounts, which then gets passed to at the design stage. Again, normally it's a third party. It might be done within the organization and using other software such as Adobe InDesign. The output of that is a PDF document, and this used to be the end of it. But now with ESEF requirements, often that involves bringing another party into the process to actually do that conversion into XBRL format. So let me show you how this process could look with a tool such as Report Authority and how we could change that process. Now, in the first case, we're going to be showing you the scenario where it is still a requirement to keep this third-party design process. We do find that most companies tend to use tools such as Adobe InDesign because Word does not give them the rich functionality needed to create the accounts. It's not true for everybody, but that seems to be the majority. So if that process is going to be continued, what Report Authority can do is we can replace that Excel/Word manual process in creating the document together. This will be the first part of the demonstration that I'll be showing you, is how you can use Report Authority to actually automate that first draft of reports that you'll pass over to the designer. Finally, we could also remove that third-party tagger, and you can re-import the output of the Adobe InDesign back into the software, which you can then convert that to ESEF format. The other possible one is that if, and there are some companies that that Word is sufficient, what you can do is you can remove that document conversion and document design functionality, and effectively Report Authority could then just be used to produce the PDF as well as the ESEF documents. Okay, so that brings us on to the demonstration. So it's going to be done in two parts. First part, we're going to be looking at just a high-level overview of how you can use Report Authority's document authoring capabilities to create that first draft set of accounts that you'd share with your designer. And then on the second part, we'll then show you how can you use Report Authority to convert a document that's been already prepared into ESEF format. Okay. So this is Report Authority, and the first thing to mention is that it uses standard word processing functionality, such as font and paragraph formatting, styles. We've got tables, hyperlinks, bookmarks, fields, etc. We've got page layouts, we've got columns, page breaks, section breaks, we've got comments, reviews, etc. So a user familiar with Microsoft Word will feel right at home within the software. But if Word was good enough, then why would we be speaking today? So I'm now going to show you what are the features that we add which Word doesn't have to help automate the production of the accounts. So the first one is here we got our outline panel on the left-hand side here. And that outline panel serves four main purposes. The first one is it allows you to take a large and complex document and break it down for ease of collation and navigation. So if you are looking, for example, for your accounting policy on property, plant, and equipment, it can be quite easy through the use of folders and subfolders to find that accounting policy there. When you select the segment, it loads just the content of that particular segment into the editor. You can reorder these by simple dragging and dropping, and you can nest them in folders and subfolders. The second main use of the outline panel is for you to create variations of the same content. So, for example, if this was a template that's going to be used by multiple subsidiaries, if I go to my statement of financial position, we've got this blue folder here, which is a variation folder. And what that means is that this folder contains variation of the same content, and only one of these will ever be inserted into the output. This is an example where within a group, maybe some of your subsidiaries are doing a balance sheet based on a current and non-current method, and maybe some others are using order of liquidity. So you can create these variations of the same content through the use of variation folders. The third use is to be able to split standardized content with content that's expected to be different in each subsidiary. So I'm going to just do a print preview where the software is now going to assemble this document by knitting all of the various segments together. And if I go to the strategic report here, this is a very short document, short section. It exists within a single page. Now, in creating the template, you could easily have created that strategic report as a single segment. But what we've done is we've broken them down to the various components from within it. And what that allows us to do, so for example, in this introduction, there's going to be a statement which we're going to fully automate using report variables. So this is something that we want consistent in all of our subsidiaries, and we're going to lock this for editing. However, the review of the business, this is something where we know we could never automate this, and it is expected that for each subsidiary, there's going to be subsidiary-specific commentary within it. So by breaking that up to the standardized content, we can then lock this for editing, and the standardized content, you can also then cascade changes. So if you want to make changes to something that you want to be consistent in all 100 subsidiaries, then you make that change to the template, and that will then get pushed to each of the subsidiaries. And then finally, the fourth use of the outline panel is about content suppression. So if you're creating a template to be used by all of your subsidiaries, not all of your subsidiaries is going to be reporting the same information. So if I go back to the statement of financial position as an example, these chevrons indicate we've got a suppression rule on this row, so that if when we bring information from the source system, if property, plant, and equipment is 0 in the current and the previous period, then this row will not appear. If I go and look at the rule that I've applied, the rule is called, this is the statement of financial position, current, non-current, property, plant, and equipment. So I can take that very same rule and I can apply it to the accounting policy. So this is our property, plant, and equipment accounting policy. So if I go to the properties of that segment, I can apply the same rule. So not only will that line item in the balance sheet not exist, neither will the property, plant, and equipment accounting policy. Furthermore, we can go to our actual notes to the accounts, and we can find that property, plant, and equipment. And here we can find a folder, so we can suppress entire folders using the very same suppression rule. And there is one final use for the outline panel, and this comes around with ESEF tagging, is that you can block tag entire sections of the returns. So for example, this notes to the financial statements. If we go into the properties, you can see we can assign XBRL block tags. And that is so much easier than having to nest these tags in the actual content by drawing a selection over what could be 50 pages and inserting tags. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the outline panel. The next thing I'm going to be looking at is a look at a bit of report automation. So if we go to the cover page, this is a template. We want to reuse this for different subsidiaries. So I'm going to go to my automation panel and I'll open my report variables. So I'm going to drag the report's name, the company name. I'm going to drag it and drop it on the report. I'll do the same thing for the identifier. And I'll do the same thing again for the period, the current period closing date. So this cover page is now automated. We'll lock it for editing in all of the subsidiaries. The company name will change, so will the date and the company identifier. So report variables, wherever you see this information in the report, you can simply drag it and drop it for automation purposes. Okay, so I'm now going to look at calculations. So we'll go to our statement of comprehensive income, and I'll select the table. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my view. I'm going to change it to be the adapted type. So these colors are now indicating where is this information coming from. So the gray items, we haven't linked them to any data sources yet. The blue items are report variables. The yellow items are calculations. So first thing we can see is the gross profit isn't calculated. So I can just add that subtotal by right-clicking and saying create subtotal. Now, one important aspect of our calculation functionality is that we're going to be rounding the source numbers to the nearest 1,000 in here. Now, the software, once you've linked it to external data sources, you will have the full precision of that number all the way down to the cents. So as soon as you are adding rounded numbers, you could introduce rounding differences. However, with Report Authority, our calculation logic only uses the precision that is actually displayed in the objects that you're using in the calculation. So it is as if you've printed it, got it off a printer, got out a calculator, and cast it. So we'll never introduce rounding differences using our calculations. Okay, so we can also, let me show you a few others. We can calculate words as well, gross profit. So if I look at this, you can see it's just a nested if statement. And what we're saying is that if gross profit in the current period and the prior period are both positive, use the word profit. If they're both negative, use the word loss. If one is positive and the other is negative, use profit loss. Otherwise, you use loss profit. So it's just a nested if statement. And you can actually use this calculation across all segments. So for example, if I look at the profit for the year, this is a number you're most likely going to be referring to quite often within the entire document. Now, what I've done is I've given it a name. I've called it Prof CP. You don't have to name all your objects, but if you want to easily refer them into calculations, it's advisable to do so. So now if I go somewhere else in the report, so we'll go to the strategic report. And here we've got a sentence saying the company's profit after taxation for the financial year was, and we want to show the profit in millions. Now, the first thing we want to automate is the word profit because perhaps the company's made a loss. So we'll go to automation and I'll drag, I'll open calculation and I'll drag the monetary sorry, this is a text calculation, drag it and then drop it on the word profit. And now I can simply say if prof underscore CP is greater than or equal to 0, then use the word profit, otherwise use the word loss. And we've automated that, and you can see the preview of the result is profit. I can then just copy that, click OK, and then I'll do the same thing for the prior period. and I'll paste that formula, and I'm just going to change this to be PP. Okay, next thing we want to automate is the actual amounts. So that's a monetary calculation. Drag it and drop it there. And then here we'll just type prof CP, which brings the number in. But I'm also going to put an absolute value formula around it, because if it's a loss, we don't want to show it as a negative. Click OK. All right, so that's been automated. With one problem, we're showing this as actually billions, because we want to show this at a different scale. So we can now go and change its scale to be millions, and you can say how many decimals you'd like. You do the same thing for the prior period, and we want to automate also the prior period year there as well. So we can drag and drop a report variable there too. So this formula is now completely, this sentence is now completely automated. We'd lock it for editing in all of the subsidiaries. Okay, so calculations is a very powerful tool to help automate this. But let me show you how we can now link it to external data sources such as OneStream. So if I go back to my statement of comprehensive income, and I'll open my automation panel, and we've created a connection to OneStream, so we can actually see our OneStream metadata from right within the software. So here I'm going to find the accounts. So here we've got our revenue. Revenue I can just drag, and I can drop it on the report. Okay, and we'll do cost of sales. And distribution costs, etc. So here we're now linking this directly to OneStream. And if I click on any one of these cells, we can actually see exactly how we're extracting that from OneStream. So here we can see all the accounts and the UD mentions, time entity consolidation, scenario view, intercompany, and origin. So we can drill down to see exactly how we're getting this information. Okay, so that's really, all we really got time for the accounts production side of it. A few other things to mention is you can link to also information perhaps within an Excel spreadsheet. All your information doesn't have to exist within a single system. We've got lots of other automations such as automated note numbers. You can create your own validation rules as well, just to so you can create custom validation rules to be, so you are made aware if certain items don't agree, which you expect them to agree. But yes, and in the end, we can then export that document to a number of formats, such as Word, PDF. We haven't yet XBRL tagged the document, but this really concludes the first part of the demonstration, which is looking at how you use the software to create a draft that you can then pass on to the designers. Second part of the demonstration is now looking at once the document has come back, is how can you XBRL tag this for ESEF reporting purposes? So first of all, you've got to set what it is that you're tagging. By default, it's the notes, accounting policies, and mandatory tags. Notice here, this is the core ESEF taxonomy, and this is our extended taxonomy, which at the moment is empty, but we're going to be building this as we tag this document. So first thing I'm going to do is I will tag so the company name, so I can just drag the tag, drop it on the report. We've got the date of end of reporting period. Again, that's something that I can just drag and I can drop onto the report. If I go to the validations panel, I can now validate it and just see how I'm doing. So there are a number of mandatory tags here. At the moment, you can see we've got 11 blocking errors here, or sorry, non-blocking errors. So what I would then do is go through the rest of these mandatory tags and make sure that those have been placed. But also what's new for 2023 will be now also tagging the notes and accounting policies. So let me show you how we do that. So let's just go to the accounting policies. So for example, let's look at our revenue recognition. So first thing we need to do is we need to find the tag. So you can search just with the stem. So I do REV, REC. I can do AC poll as well for accounting policy. Click next. And here we've got the description of accounting policy for recognition of revenue. So we found the tag. And to do the block tag, we just draw a selection over what we want to tag and then click insert tag. Next one is interest, income, and expense. So we'll keep that AC poll and we'll just type int inc. Next. And there's our description of accounting policy for interest, income, and expense. So again, you can just draw a selection. We can drag the tag and we can drop it onto the selection. Once again, for dividends, next. And there's our accounting policy for dividends, etc. So you would go through the entire set of accounts and block tag the various notes to the accounts. Once you've done that, you then have to tell the software we're now going to be moving on to a different section, which is going to be our statements of, we'll do the statement of comprehensive income first. So we'll choose that as a section and we'll go find it in the accounts. Okay, here's the statement of comprehensive income. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the software to try and automatically tag this section. So we'll tell it to auto tag. Okay, and in this case, it's managed to find a tag for each of these examples. When we do the balance sheet, there will be examples where it hasn't worked, and we'll show you how you deal with that. So a tag has been placed. You can review them by clicking on the item, and you can see which tag has been applied. Next thing we need to look at, we need to be concerned ourselves with, is about signage. So you can now change our view to accounting balance. And this is a tier count. So greens are on the left-hand side is going to be debits and blues are going to be credits. And at the moment, all of these items are actually going to be interpreted as credits, which is wrong here. So for cost of sales, we can just highlight our cost of sales, reverse the sign. They're now going to be interpreted as debits and the colors change. So we can reverse the sign as we go along. Reverse. And we'll do this one too. Then what we need to do is, there's the final step, is we have to set up our calculation hierarchy, which we can do on the right here. So for example, gross profit will be revenue less cost of sales. Then profit from operating activities will be gross profit, less distribution costs, less admin expenses. Then profit before tax will be profit from operating activities plus finance income, less finance costs. And then profit and loss will be profit before tax, less tax. And then we've also got another calculation where we've got owners of parent and non-controlling interests. And then we can run our validations. Okay, so we got no errors, which means the numbers that we are reporting conforms perfectly with the calculation hierarchy that we've set up. Okay, for the final part of the demo, I'll show you the balance sheet, and this is there'll be cases where auto tag has not been successful. So we'll tell the software we're now tagging our statement of financial position, and then we'll tell it to auto tag. Okay, so it's tagged most of it, but there's a few things it hasn't. So investments and group undertakings. So what I can do is I can just select the word investments and I can tell the software to suggest some tags. And I'm just going to skip over the yellow tags. These are text tags. We're looking for a blue monetary tag. Okay, and here we go. So there's two tags of investment, which is why the auto tag didn't work. So we now, as an accountant, you choose the most appropriate. We'll go with investments in subsidiaries, joint ventures. I can just drag and drop that. So that has now been tagged. And then the next thing is bank borrowings and overdrafts. So if I go to my current liabilities section of the taxonomy, we'll see there is no appropriate tag for this. Now, before you create your own tag, you're required to search through the entire taxonomy to see if you can't find a tag that's available. But we make that a bit easier. So if we now go to our extended taxonomy, so this is your taxonomy that the software has been creating for you as you've been tagging the document. So we'll go to our liabilities, our current liabilities, and we'll tell the software we want another tag there. Now, before it lets you create one, you can search. I'll just type BANBOR, and I can see that this is the only tag that exists in the entire taxonomy. So I'm satisfied that I need to create an extension in this case. So I can give it a name, bank borrowings and overdrafts. And then I need to anchor it to an existing tag. So I'll search for current financial liabilities. So this will be a wider. So I'm saying that this tag we are creating is a narrower tag to current financial liabilities. And also it combines borrowings, which is a narrow one, as well as overdrafts. So we've created this anchoring relationship here so that we're giving some meaning to the tag that we are creating. Tag gets created, I can drag it in my presentation to be the first one, and I can then drag that tag and use it to tag that last item. I also notice that all my liabilities are being interpreted as debit, so I'm going to select them because I'm showing them as negatives, and I want to flip the sign of the tag. They go blue, so they're going to be credits. Okay, then the final step would be, once again, to go and set up your calculation hierarchy, but we are running out of time, so we'll leave it at that. And then the final step, once it's all complete, would be to export into ESEF format. This will then create, it'll do another validation. I'm still going to have some issues because they've got these mandatory tags I haven't yet cleared. And then it'll create a zip file which contains, what was mentioned in the presentation. Okay, so I think that concludes the demonstration. So we're just moving on to Q&A. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the session, the Zoom session box.
Thank you, Michael. This was really great, and I can see how this whole process makes the submission so much easier. I can see a couple of questions. One is around the integration with OneStream. Can you give an indication of how difficult it is to integrate OneStream with the Authority software?
It is pretty straightforward because we use the OneStream APIs. To be honest, the integration is actually quite trivial. This is setting up the connection to the document. Other than that, you'll be creating a connection within a document. With it, you'll just choose which application, which cubes. You set some of your point of view defaults so that you might have noticed when I did that initial dragging, I just dragged an account, dropped it, and numbers came in because we've set some sensible defaults. But it's pretty trivial to get that up and running.
Thank you, Michael. And then I have another question around the evolution of the regulatory reporting requirement. What's the level of effort required to adapt to future evolution of the regulations?
So every year we are expecting a new ESEF taxonomy. Last year's taxonomy was released about the beginning of December. So we're expecting the new ESEF one to be released any day now. What we've built within the software is that companies would want to retain the same extensions that they created the previous year. Problem is that will be linking to an old taxonomy. So we have released functionality that lets you migrate your extended taxonomy through to the new version of the ESEF taxonomy. And at that point, you will then really just look to re-tag the various primary statements. So, it definitely is important that you're not starting again from scratch every year when you do this.
That's great. Thank you, Michael. I don't see any other question. So I think we can probably wrap it up. I just want to thank you all, Kai and Michael, for your time today, for you all on the call, for being with us today and giving us the opportunity to showcase these really amazing capabilities. As always, please do reach out if you have any questions or would like to discuss this further with us. Stay safe and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye, guys.